Greetings and welcome to the Pampering Myself podcast, an advocacy for self-care. We'll laugh, we'll cry, and most importantly, we'll learn that you can't pour from an empty cup. You'll hear stories, interviews, and conversations which will empower you in living your best life. Welcome to another episode of Pampering Myself. Well, ladies, it's been a long, hard week, a painful week, which is why I decided to choose this topic. So today's topic is all about gout, a painful condition, and I'm a witness that can attack you at any age. Now, if you've never had an episode of gout, I pray that you don't. And if you have, I truly sympathize with you. I just finished a 7-day prescription, and it took all 7 days to actually get my ankle back to about 95%. So my research told me that there are some things that I have to change, and that's all about pampering ourselves, learning our body and information that help us live a pain-free, disease-free, happy life. So what we're learning is, again, it's all about our diet, which is the cause and effect of everything that ails us. So I thought I would enlighten you, and hopefully you'll be able to avoid a bout, or at least if you have one, to be able to manage it. Now, according to the Mayo Clinic, gout is a common form of arthritis that can affect anyone, and basically at any age, and is characterized by a sudden severe attack of pain, swelling, redness, and tenderness, usually at the base of the toe. Now, I have to admit that I have had it in my toe before. It wasn't so bad. I've had it on my thumb. I didn't know that's what it was, but I had trigger finger before, so of course arthritis has built around that, and that wasn't as bad. But it can wake you up in the middle of the night, and the research says that's when it really lays dormant, and then in the morning, boom, and that's exactly what happened. I woke up one morning, moved around the house getting dressed for work as usual, pain, ankle, just a little bit sore, and then by the time I got to work, I could barely put my foot on the ground. It was on fire, and it just continued all day to get worse. Now, I took some stand back, and for you who know what stand back is, that's an old powder form that I used to throw back in the day when I had headaches or toothaches. It would knock that pain out just like that. Stand back didn't work. I got home, I had some Motrin 800s I took. It still didn't work. That's how severe that pain was in my ankle. So I continued to go on for a few days before I decided to actually go to the urgent care, where I was given a prescription for the 7 whole days, and it is called a prednisone, 20 milligrams, and it took all 7 days to get back to 95%. So let's talk about some of those symptoms. Now, the signs and symptoms of gout almost, as I said, occur suddenly and often at night, and they can include intense joint pain. It can be in your elbow, your ankles, your knees, your wrists, your fingers, and it's most likely to be severe within the first 12 hours after it begins. Witness, that pain and discomfort can linger for most of the time over a period of a few days. Later attacks are likely to last longer and affect more joints. So that means that if you have that arthritis in your body, is the potential to have reoccurrence. And the inflammation and the redness of the joints can make it swell and tender and warm. And I mean, my ankle was on fire and it was swollen. And your range of motion, now just imagine when you walk, your ankles actually bend in. So every bend was a pain. Imagine if you have it in your hands. We don't know how much we really utilize our hands until we don't have access to them or until there's some pain. So, what do? Well, you go see a doctor. Especially if you see this sudden intense pain or have this, you call a doctor because going untreated can lead to worsened pain and joint damage. So, this isn't just about gout and the pain, and that's it. These things could also lead to other things that are affecting your body and causing pain. So, my main concern why I went to the doctor was my first thought was, oh, I always think about blood clots. I don't know why I've never had one. I don't know what one would feel like, but I know they're deadly. So, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Now, what causes gout? Well, it occurs when this uric acid accumulates in your uric crystals, accumulates in your joints, causing an inflammation and this intense pain. Now, these uric crystals can form when you have high levels of uric acid in your blood. Now, your body produces uric acid when it breaks down these purines, as they're called, and these are substances that are found naturally in your body, and they're found in certain foods. Now, this was the kicker. They're found in steaks, organ meats, and seafoods. Now, I'm not a big fan of red meat, so I don't really know. I tried to think of what could have sparked that attack. When you go back in your mind, what did I eat the day before, maybe even the week before? And I'll reveal that shortly. Other foods can promote higher levels of uric acid as well, such as alcohol beverages, especially beer and drinks sweetened with fruit sugar, the fructose. There we go with that sugar. And that is my confession. A martini here, a martini there. Looked like happy hour was basically out for me for a while. So normally these uric acids dissolve in your blood and pass through your kidneys into the urine. But sometimes either your body produces too much uric acid or your kidneys excrete too little. And when this happens, the uric acid builds up, forming these sharp needle-like uric crystals in the joint surrounding that tissue, and that causes pain, inflammation, and swelling. Now, once again, according to the Mayo Clinic, they say that certain conditions or risk factors are why people actually get gout. Get gout, get it? It's their diet, number one reason. Eating too much food that is rich, such as the seafood and drinking the alcohol, things like that. Being overweight, your body has a tendency to produce more uric acid. And taking certain medications, such as untreated hypertension or chronic conditions like diabetes, kidney disease. And then there's certain medications. There's some diuretics for people who have hypertension, like me, people who take low dose aspirin. There could be a family history. They talk about age and the sex of a person. Women are more or less likely than men until they reach a certain age. And the ages can generally be between 30 to 50 years old. And of course, if you had any recent surgeries or traumas, of course, like anytime you break a bone or rip a muscle or something like that, you're most likely to, over time, as you age, occur arthritis on it. And this, of course, was the very ankle that I had broke many years ago. My toes, I had surgery on my feet. And so over time, arthritis will build around those bones that had been broken, whether it was surgically or whether it was an accident. My thumb, I mentioned I had trigger finger before on my thumb, so therefore that was a source of where it came from. And those were the only places that I noticed. Now, people with gout can develop this more severe conditions as time goes on, such as reoccurring gout. So that means that if you have to get to the point where medication is required, it could go again where medication is required. Oh my goodness, I'm not looking forward to that. There's advanced gout that they talk about also, and then kidney stones. So those uric crystals can collect in the urinary tract of people who have gout and actually cause kidney stones. Now, this news isn't all doom and gloom. There are some ways to prevent it. And during these free periods, which they call free periods when you're not under attack with gout, you want to do some things that will help you to minimize or prevent an attack. And that would be certainly to drink plenty of fluids. Now, as I thought back to when I got that attack that Monday, I had went no, actually it was a Tuesday. I had went to happy hour that Monday. And that means I had the sugary drink. And I also am not really good with drinking water on the weekend. I'm trying to get better. I probably only consumed 16 ounces of water that Saturday and Sunday. And water is very important for the body. And I'll do a podcast on the importance of water, the consumption of water at a future time. But that was part of the problem. So you want to drink plenty of water. You want to limit or avoid the alcohol. And then you want to get your protein from low-fat dairy products to things such as I think they mentioned yoga. That's a good low-fat dairy product. And those are the things you want to look at. You also want to talk about meat. You want to limit your intake of meat. And what really surprised me were some of the meats and things that have all this protein that we think that are good for us. But I think my takeaway on this is moderation. And then, of course, there are tests that diagnose whether or not it's gout. Don't take for granted that that is exactly what it is just because you have all the signs and symptoms. There's a blood test that you can take. Now, I did not take the blood test in the emergency or urgent care room because I was seeing my doctor. So I just wanted some immediate results, some pain, some medication, or something to minimize the pain. And so they took an x-ray. And the x-ray revealed no broke, no tear, nothing like that. There was some swollen joints in my ankle, and that it was arthritic. And of course, there was accumulation of the crystals. Now, I already mentioned to you that there's a treatment plan, and it usually involves medication. The couple of times prior to this, how I treated when it got to my toes or my big toe was I just flooded myself with water for a few days, and voila, it went away. But this time, I flood myself with water for sure, but it definitely did not go away with water, and this bout was going to take a medication to get rid of. So I prolonged the pain by thinking that the water would help, and the water did not help. Thank goodness the medication did, and I know now to watch out for it. Now, here's some of the things that actually, the foods or the drinks that actually can cause a bout. We already talked about beer and alcohol, and they say beer is the worst offender. Limiting these or eliminating them will certainly help reduce any gout attacks. But this is one that was surprising to me, seafood. Now, while some kinds of seafoods can be consumed once in a while, there are many that they say should be removed from your diet because it can produce too much uric acid. Shellfish, crab, eel, and lobster. Now, shrimp is a better choice, and I'm glad because shrimp is my favorite. But I'm really surprised that because of the fish oil that is in it, that it would be one of those that they tell you to stay away from. But speaking of the fish oil, while the fish oil is rich in vitamin D and fatty acid and many other those other nutrients, it's also a source of the purines as the fish meat. So what they're suggesting is it's better to take the fish oil, which you can get at your health food store, GNC, wherever you get your health food products from. The fish oil is much better instead of consuming a high diet in fish. And that's what I do. I take the fish oil because I know I'm getting the right amount in. They also talk about turkey, and this was another surprise to me. Turkey is rich in those purines that cause this uric acid, and they suggest instead of turkey that you eat ducks and chicken. They would be safer choices. So I was surprised about that because I thought turkey would be a better alternative. I'm not a fan of duck, but chicken, well, we can always resort to eating chicken. Organ meats are frowned upon, like kidneys and tongues and brains. Of course, all the red meats, such as beef, those things can cause a flare up. And naturally, the sugary drinks, whether it's alcohol, pop, energy drinks, and I did have an energy drink, maybe, I think that's Saturday. First one I had in months, but I needed that extra kick, and I paid for it. Lemonade, uh, anything that's sweetened or has fructose sugar in it. And we know sugars come by many names, so avoid the sugary drinks. Now, cauliflower was another one. Even though it's a vegetable, and of course we know vegetables are supposed to be good for you, they encourage you to reduce the amount of cauliflower that you eat. Also, mushrooms. Mushrooms is another thing that is high in uric acid. And of course, pork. So, pork is only suggested 1 or 2 servings per day. Now, I'm guessing, well, I guess that's not really far fetched, 1 or 2 servings a day, because if someone ate bacon in the morning, they could potentially eat pork chops in the evening. So I can see, yes, where, so that's a limit then. Don't have bacon, pork chops, and then some other form of pork, whether it's a pork roast or whatever, all in the same day. And I would probably say maybe only once or twice. Again, when we talk about the foods and the waters and the things that we consume, it's it's all about what we put in our bodies, the foods and things, and the drinks that really affects how our body perform. So when we wonder why this hurt, that hurt, every day I get up, I got a new ache, that is why. Just think back. And when I thought back to what it was when I went in that urgent care, that's exactly how I presented it to the doctor. I said, here is what I think happened. So you go in informed, and then that can help them also diagnose and treat you as opposed to unnecessary tests and a whole bunch of other different things and time. I didn't go to an emergency room, which was another thing that was different for me because my insurance would not pay for it, but I have a reimbursement account. And although the money is available and I struggle to spend it every year, thank God for that, I didn't want to waste $250 for the man to tell me what I already knew. So I went to an urgent care facility versus an emergency room. Now, had I thought it was more urgent or more severe, then I would have gone there. But an urgent care can do x-rays and lab work, and they're less crowded and less congestion going on there. So I basically was in and out. So when we look at all of these things, it all brings it back down to what we put in our bodies. So now that we know what not to eat, don't worry, there's a treatment plan. I don't want to say a cure because I think, we're humans, we get off track. I'm going to do happy hour every now and then, maybe not as much as I have. I'm going to have that piece of cake. Speaking of that piece of cake, I did have it for Fat Tuesday, which was also a day that I was flared up. So I was just adding sugar. I was just prolonging it. Now I see it was probably my fault. Well, here we go. So some of the things that they consider to be value and to help treat the gout and to minimize those bouts that you have is to, of course, consume more vegetables. And you might want to do your research in finding, this is another one of those things where you have to figure out what works for you. It might not work for me, but it'll work for you. So I'm not going to give you which vegetables that are better, how you prepare them, but these are just some suggestions by the Mayo Clinic that would help you to minimize the pain and suffering. Cherries is a good resource. At least a couple of research results showed that the cherries could help in the treatment. And in 2010, there was a meeting of the European League against rheumatism. And this study was presented indicating that patients who took a teaspoon of concentrated cherry juice 2 times a day or more for 4 months noticed at least their gout attacks reduced by 50%. Now, those are people who probably have really a lot of arthritis in their bodies. And I can remember people like my father-in-law who had it in his hands and his feet. And he had a lot of the risk factors, which probably did not help. But you can imagine over time, as we age, these things will become more relevant. So you might want to consider cherries and, of course, water. Studies show that drinking more water can help the flare-ups as well. And in 2009, they revealed that every glass of water drank in 24 hours before an attack helps reduce the risk of reoccurring. So I've been on this water. Every now and then I have a taste where I want something a little different than water. So I'll get maybe 4 ounces of the sugary beverage, just to have something else there. So the researchers also found that dairy products with low fats can help excrete more uric acid from your blood. So you want to consider those low-fat dairy products as well. Believe it or not, coffee revealed also that the more coffee you drink, the lower your risk. Now, some of these things to me seem to contradict other things that go on in your body. And again, that's where you have to determine, because there's not a one fix for everyone or or a cure. So this coffee may help this disease of gout, but it may hinder something else. So you have to make that distinguish yourself. And then adding a couple of high fiber foods in your diet can also lower your uric acid. And we know that because high fiber diet is good for colon cleansing and for a whole bunch of things when you get into other things. And for those who've been diagnosed with gout, you want to increase your soluble fibers like oranges. So I've been eating 1 or 2 oranges a day. Cucumbers, broccoli, carrots, strawberries, apples, oats, blueberries, celery, pears, and broccoli. And those are some things that are also help. Now, they talked about adding apples. Well, you know, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So, apple or apple cider, apple vinegar could also reduce gouts. And they also, the apples and the vinegar have other healing properties. So, consider that. Lime juice, foods rich in vitamin C, cooking your foods with cold pressed olive oil. Those are other remedies. Green tea, consuming green tea daily is another way to keep those high levels of uric acid down. And it helps to control your hyperglycemia, which also reduces your chances of developing gout. Pinto beans are stacked with folic acid that helps reduce that. And so there's a lot of things that you can eat and you can do. Again, my takeaway with all of this is moderation. Your diet is it controls everything. So what we put in our bodies, I'm also reminded now, Monday before my attack Tuesday, I ate a box of Girl Scout cookies. I didn't say I ate one or two. I ate all 16 of those Girl Scout cookies, the Samoys. Well, I only bought one box this year, and I bought it with the intent to eat the whole box. So when I think about it, all of those sugary products that I had, that uric acid just build up and build up. And Tuesday, bam, it hit me with a vengeance. So be mindful of what you consume in your body and think about those things that are, whether it is gout or not, that affects how we perform. Our body um, needs the proper fuel and nourishments to perform. So be mindful of that. Our body is our temple, and we want to live a long, healthy, productive life. So you want to be physically fit, and pampering myself not only involves some of the things that we do outward, but what we do inward to make us feel good. I hope you've learned something from this episode. Pass this information along. It is good to treat your internal body well, even if you do not have gout, because everything that is mentioned as far as the do's and don'ts, what you should avoid, how much you should consume, the things that you should eat is good for our overall health. And then we won't have to be faced with some of these painful conditions. I'm just thanking God that it was something as minor. And even though it was painful, and to some who are suffering from this ongoing, it's not meant to minimize your pain or what you're experiencing, but it could be worse. And I'm just glad to be able to pass this information on. And thank you for listening.